Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me for this session, Digital Literacy and Citizenship, Essential Skills for the 21st Century. My name is Rebecca Randall, and I'm the Vice President of Common Sense Media, a national nonprofit organization that I'll tell you a little bit about in a moment. But first, I wanted to get the opportunity to actually introduce myself and say hello, so you had a sense of who you were actually hearing from, that you could see me as well as hear me. I'm going to go ahead and actually turn the video off and get started in the presentation. And before telling you a little bit about Common Sense Media, I wanted to first actually introduce the goals of the session itself. First and foremost, we're going to develop a brief understanding of the current landscape and issues that kids face in today's digital world, both the positive and the negative. I'm also going to give you information to empower you to proactively address digital literacy and citizenship in your school, engaging all stakeholders, otherwise known as taking a whole community approach. And then lastly, I'll introduce you to the Common Sense Media education resources that we have available for educators on our website at no cost. So first up, let me share a bit about Common Sense Media. As I said earlier, we're a national nonprofit, and we're dedicated to improving the lives of kids and families by providing trustworthy information, education, and an independent voice while they navigate through the dizzying pace of media and technology. We do that in three key ways. We rate, educate, and advocate. We have over 13,000 reviews and ratings of all the types of media that kids love: websites, movies, games, TV shows, books, music, and mobile applications, all based on child development criteria so that you can decide what's right for your child. We even have an app for those of you that may have an iPhone or an iPad so that you can get those reviews on the go. The reviews include information about content and also have helpful tips on what families can talk about if they choose to watch that TV show or the kids are on a particular website. We also provide comprehensive education, and we do that not only on our website, but also through our education programs, which I'll be sharing more about later. And then lastly, we do quite a bit of work around advocacy. At this point, one of the key elements that we're working towards at a national level is trying to make sure that digital literacy and citizenship are on the radar screen of policymakers across the country. So moving forward, I wanted to talk a bit about what kids are actually doing with technology. And as I'm sure that you know well, they're really growing up in a technological revolution and more or less doing everything and everything on sites like Facebook and YouTube. They weren't even around 10 years ago, and yet they're playing a major role in kids' lives today. In fact, so much so that kids are no longer making any kind of distinction between their offline lives and their online lives. A few years ago, we used to talk about how kids had their online lives and then their real lives offline. But that's not really accurate because, again, they don't make much of a distinction. And they're spending a whole lot of time with media on an everyday basis. As you can see, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation, kids spend an average of about 7.5 hours per day with media. And much to our surprise, when they redid this study in 2010, the first study that they had done was back in 2005, we were surprised that the most media that they were spending time with was actually TV and not some more of the social applications. But they are watching TV not just on their television screens, but also on their mobile devices and on their computer screens. So it's not that they're not watching a lot of TV, they're just doing it through different platforms. And what they are doing, even though they are watching, as I said, quite a bit of TV, they are still quite social and interactive with their media consumption, and they can really collaborate and connect in so many different ways that we never could have imagined even 10 years ago. There's also something that researcher Dana Boyd calls the net effect that I think is important to understand when we think about the media landscape, and that is there's a huge scale to the landscape today, and kids can communicate with and post information for this vast invisible audience, and they don't necessarily have an understanding of who it is that they may be talking to or speaking to, and really who's looking at their information, or frankly who's talking to them, because anybody can be anonymous, and that includes not just the people that our kids are communicating with online, but also our kids themselves. And because of the information that they post, whether they're doing that with their real names or anonymously, it's all replicable, and it can really be cut and paste and spread virally. And that information, once it's out there, it's really hard to do anything about because kids really lose control over it. And part of that is because the information is all searchable. So anybody can really access information, even if kids have set privacy settings, which makes it a little bit more complicated. But most of the time, once information is out there, it can be found. And we know that college admissions officers are looking at Facebook profiles, for example, as our future employers. And because it's searchable and because it's hard to take down because it may have been cut and paste and spread virally, that information is persistent. It's hard to go away once it's out there. And ultimately, what that means is our kids are really leaving digital footprints. And those digital footprints can be positive or negative. And just like the environment that kids live in can be positive or negative, so too can the Internet. There are a whole host of opportunities and amazing, wonderful learning opportunities for kids, both formal and informal because of technology. But there are also risks that are associated with technology as well. The digital footprint is one of them. And really, there's a very thin line between those opportunities and those challenges. And the roadmap that kids have isn't always clear to them or, frankly, to the adults that work with them, either their parents or their educators. And so what that really means is that we need to be teaching our kids essential digital literacy and citizenship skills because these are essential skills for the 21st century, and that kids really need to have an understanding in three core areas. One, they need to be digitally literate. It's important that they understand how to search for information and evaluate the credibility of that information. They need to have the tech skills to actually go online and to navigate and to harness the full potential of technology for learning. And of course, as they're doing that, they're creating and they're producing as well. And as they go through and they're interacting in this online and mobile environment, they need to make sure that they are good digital citizens. And what that really means is that they have skills to protect their own privacy and they're keeping themselves safe and thinking about the ethical and legal implications. But they are also being thoughtful and respectful of others. So first, they really think about themselves, then their friends and family, and the community at large. And then lastly, but certainly not the least, is that they need to think about their safety and security and consider issues related to identity theft and unwanted contact. And what this all really adds up to is kids who can think critically, behave safely, and participate responsibly in our ever-changing digital media world. Part of them being able to do so, we believe at Common Sense Media, is that everyone is responsible for helping our young people today be good digital citizens. And so what that really requires are schools and community organizations and parents taking a whole community approach to digital citizenship. And I'm going to go through these different elements of what we believe you can do as an educator to build that whole community strategy. So first off, we really recommend building a leadership team and identifying your goals. And that leadership team can include and should include faculty and parents, and certainly as kids get older, the students themselves. And decide who in that group is really responsible and has the ultimate accountability. The group should be meeting regularly, and as part of those meetings at the outset, defining what you mean by digital citizenship and digital literacy, because everyone may take a different approach to what that definition means. And the group can decide how comprehensive or how narrow the scope of their mission really may be. And there are a variety of different elements that the group can be looking at: how kids are being educated, how the classrooms might be integrating technology, and then also the policies that support what's happening in that school environment. And as it relates to the policies, if you as a group are going to delve into those issues, we certainly recommend creating a comprehensive digital citizenship policy. And as you do so, considering compliance issues and alignment with standards like the National Education Technology Standards from ISTE, as well as, if you're located in California, the new California Model Library Standards. There are several other standards that you might want to consider, as well as compliance issues like E-rate, for example. And as you're developing this policy, you really should be thinking not just about acceptable use policies, but also equipment and software and your information and communication technology systems, both on and off campus. Because as we know, the line between home and school has really blurred because of mobile technologies, and address a whole variety of issues ranging from cyberbullying to security and plagiarism. These are all things that as a group, if you're thinking about developing a comprehensive policy, you want to take into consideration. And as you work through the policy, you do need to think about having those policies perhaps be differentiated by grade. For example, you might have different expectations for a first grader than you do for an eighth grader or for a senior in high school. And throughout that policy, you should make sure that you're placing responsibility and defining really expectations and consequences for the school, the student, and for parents. And of course, once you have that policy, you need to review the policies annually, because we know that technology is evolving so rapidly that you can't your policies can't really just have a shelf life, because the technologies are going to change so rapidly and you need to take those into consideration. And of course, once you have that policy in place, and even throughout the process of developing it, you need to work to get buy-in from your entire community. And I think part of getting that buy-in is making sure that you're doing quite a bit of education and that you're really working with faculty and with parents and with students and integrating conversations about digital citizenship into the mix where appropriate. And there are so many different ways to do that. As you can see, there are staff meetings, professional development days that you can work with faculty on these issues. You can do grade level coffees for parents. You can distribute materials. And of course, then you need to be providing education to students throughout their full K-12 experience. And as you do this education, we really recommend that you take an empowering approach. And by that we mean something that's not fear-based and that focuses on the positive aspects of technology. As I said earlier, while there are certainly a whole host of risks and challenges associated with kids' use of technology today, we also know that there are wonderful opportunities, and that by focusing on the negative, particularly when you're working with tweens and teens, they're going to do exactly what you don't want them to do if you just say no, no, no. So you really need to be a little bit more positive and engage them in what is appropriate, while at the same time helping them to mediate the negative behaviors. And like the policies that maybe are differentiated by grade, so too does the education. And it needs to be comprehensive. It shouldn't address only one issue. As you move forward as a school or as a school district, really taking a comprehensive approach to addressing a wide variety of issues across the grade spans will ultimately help your students and their families graduate, whether that's in 5th grade, 8th grade, or their senior year in high school, graduate as full digital citizens that really are thinking critically about the media environment, behaving safely, and participating responsibly. Now, Common Sense Media, I had mentioned up front that we have a whole variety of education programs that we offer to schools and to other informal and formal learning settings that are on our website for free. We have a parent education program and a curriculum, both of which I'll address briefly. First, I'll talk a bit about our parent media education program. That's really a comprehensive library of online resources for schools and other settings to educate and engage parents on all sorts of media and technology issues, ranging from traditional media literacy issues like media violence, body image, commercialism, and sexuality in media, but also internet safety and digital citizenship. And these materials are available in both English and Spanish, and we knew that we couldn't take a one-size approach. So we created a flexible action plan, which is really a menu of activities that schools can pick and choose from to determine what works best for their parent body. So there are surveys, communication templates, and then the bulk of the materials are really the parent education materials. So for example, there are tip sheets that you can use to distribute to parents on topics like cyberbullying and social networking and creating media, as well as media violence and whether or not technology is okay for babies and toddlers. And you can send those out to parents through kids' backpacks or in school newsletters or hand them out at school events. Again, whatever way really quite works best for your school, we have the materials that can really support your efforts to engage and educate parents in topics related to media and technology, because we know how important it is that a home-school connection is built and fostered around these issues in particular. Then there's our digital literacy and citizenship curriculum. The goal of that curriculum is really to empower people to be safe, respectful, and responsible. And we worked quite closely with Howard Gardner at the Harvard Graduate School of Education and his Good Play project to develop the curriculum. Professor Gardner had done a lot of research to look at the ethical dilemmas and fault lines that kids experience when they engage with media, and we based our curriculum on those fault lines. The target of the curriculum is students in grades K-12, and while the curriculum is teacher-directed and facilitated, it is very student-centered because the approach we take is all about engagement. We really believe that kids should not just be passive vessels taking in information. They need to be active in thinking about the information they're receiving and help to create that information. So the work that we do with the curriculum is all about helping kids think critically. And that means engaging them in activities like role-playing and case studies and watching and discussing videos and making videos and animations themselves. The curriculum is aligned to core standards. As I had said earlier, we are aligned to NETS as well as English Language Arts Common Core, the American Association of School Librarians Standards for the 21st Century Learner, and we are working towards aligning the standards to the California Model Library Standards as well. And the curriculum itself is comprehensive and covers three main topics, of which I'm going to go through each of them. But before doing so, I wanted to talk about the fact that because it's K-12, we knew that we really needed to have a developmental differentiation between how we thought about working with students at each grade band. So as you can see, in kindergarten through 5th grade, we really kept the curriculum fairly simple. There are a lot of fun illustrations that young kids love. There's story prompts and sentence starters, and it's quite simple and concrete. And then as kids get older, whether they're in middle school or high school, we're able to do more modeling of moral and ethical thinking, and it's much more media-rich and focuses on group work and collaboration. And there are real critical thinking and opportunities for real-world debate and discussion. The first strand in the curriculum, the first topic really, is safety and security. And the safety and security strand is where we really focus on the basics of internet safety. Things like avoiding strangers, guarding private information, and looking at security issues like keeping financial information secure and recognizing phishing schemes. So this is where we address some of the more core and basic internet safety skills. Then we move on to digital citizenship, which really look at the ethical and the legal challenges and opportunities of being online in digital today. So we address issues like privacy and digital footprints and what it means to overshare information. It's where we talk about our 24/7 connected culture, and we get into the forms and norms of communication and issues like cyberbullying and digital drama and how kids interact, whether they're in a friendship or a romantic relationship. And it's also where we talk a lot about building positive online communities, because as I said earlier, we take this balanced approach where it's not just about the negative opportunities, but it's also about the positive collaboration and building respectful communities that we think it's important for kids to not just understand, but to actively engage in. And throughout the curriculum, as I said a bit earlier, it's media rich. And so by that, I mean we have a lot of different activities where kids can go online and interact. Although if you're a low-tech school, we also have options that are more pen and paper-based so you don't have to worry about having a computer to use this curriculum. It's really something that you're able to do without technology. That said, we have a lot of wonderful videos that are part of the curriculum. And before going on to the next area, I'm going to show actually a video that's already started for you. This is one of our video vignettes. So as you saw, that was one of our student video vignettes. That's part of our Connected Culture unit. That is part of our digital citizenship strand of the curriculum. If you want to watch the video later, you can just copy the link or add it to your favorites. You can click on that button in YouTube. And now that the video is over, you can actually close out or minimize the screen. We're going to watch another video in a second, but first let me give you a little bit of context. This second video is what we call an introductory video that's more animation style. This is also part of our digital citizenship strand of the curriculum within the privacy unit. That's part of our lesson called $1 Trillion Footprint. It's all about helping students to think about their digital footprints and what kinds of information might be oversharing. You'll see at the end of the video that we ask a series of questions, and the intent of that is to really get kids engaged in a discussion. And we do that through the questions that are at the end of the video, which are also embedded into the lesson plan. But as you saw as part of the Stacy story, the video vignette that we just watched, we have a discussion guide that teachers can use to engage kids in conversations about the issues. You can go ahead and minimize or close out the YouTube screen now and return to the main presentation. So again, as you just saw, that was our privacy footprint that we use in 6th through 8th grade classrooms. That has been given quite a bit of accolades, and we know from the students that they really like these videos. In fact, when we developed the curriculum, we went out and we did 20 focus groups with teams across the country, and one of the things that we heard is that they wanted the videos to not be cheesy, which to us we took as meaning let's be authentic. And that's really why with the video vignettes like Stacy, we made sure these were real kids telling real stories, and that the animation from, say, this $1 trillion footprint video wasn't something that they feel like was too young for them and wasn't hip enough for something that would resonate with them. So moving forward, the final topic that is in our curriculum is research and information literacy. And this is really where kids are learning research and evaluation skills, including how to search the internet effectively and evaluate the trustworthiness and usefulness of online information, as well as how to correctly cite sources. Now, you might be asking, how do I actually implement this curriculum? Well, we've been working very closely this past year with 75 schools throughout the country, serving nearly 10,000 students, to better understand how this curriculum could in fact be implemented. These schools are located in New York City, throughout the state of Maine, Los Angeles, the Bay Area, Omaha, and Houston. And what we've done is we've collected best practices from these demonstration sites so that we had a better sense of not only what kinds of lessons you might implement if you weren't able to do the full curriculum, but also what teacher and how often you should actually be teaching the courses. And so first of all, what kinds of lessons might you think about implementing? And you have a variety of different options because the curriculum itself is flexible and it's modular. And by that I mean you can really cherry pick the lessons that you feel like are most interesting for your classroom. So you can decide, for example, to just pick the digital citizenship strand as opposed to working in lessons from the safety and security or from the research and information literacy strand. That's one way to think about the curriculum. Another way to implement the curriculum into your classroom is to think about the scope and sequence over a child's grade span at your school and within your district. And so you can teach some lessons in all three strands in first grade and second grade and so on, and then scaffold that learning so that by the time they graduate, they really have a full and comprehensive skill set around digital literacy and citizenship. You could also just select lessons from any of those strands, and so we've given you some different examples of what that might look like. So for example, if you are a K through 5 teacher or administrator, here are some suggestions that we have of some of the best lessons in the entire curriculum. And we did this by looking at the different types of activities that were included in each lesson, so that by doing, say, these different lessons at each grade level, so for example, if you were a teacher in kindergarten and first grade and you only had time to do 3 lessons, we would recommend the going places safely in the safety and security strand, sending email lesson within digital citizenship, and then the ABC searching sites I like within the research and information literacy strand. Alternatively, if you only had time to do one strand, or you felt like one strand would work best at your school and you could only do 1 or 2 lessons, and you just wanted to focus on digital citizenship, in first grade you could do sending the email lesson, second grade follow the digital trail, and then by 5th grade you would be doing the group think lesson. So really, we've designed this so you can pick and choose the lessons that you think work best. But those that are represented on this screen for kindergarten through 5th grade, and then on this following screen for middle school years, are those that we really think are the ones that will resonate most, not only with your students, but offer them some basic digital literacy and citizenship skills. Lastly, there's our high school curriculum. You'll notice here that there are some blank spaces, and that's because we have yet to fully launch this curriculum. So in July of 2011, we'll be launching the digital citizenship strand, and then in the fall of 2011, we'll be launching the safety and security and the research and information literacy strands as well. So you'll have to check back on our website to look at not only those lessons, but also then the ones that we are recommending as really the best of collection. Now, with all these lessons, who, what kind of teacher, and when would you implement it? Well, I can tell you based on the work that we've done with all of these sites that I mentioned throughout the country, they've been easily integrated into a wide variety of courses. Media specialists and librarians have taken, I think, a very special role in introducing these courses into classrooms, particularly in California, where the curriculum is very well aligned to the California Model Library Standards. But we've also seen the curriculum taught in advisory, in technology classes, and in language arts and social studies. And in some schools, we've seen them take a co-teacher approach where the librarian might teach several of the lessons within the research and information literacy strand, and then the life skills or advisory teacher might teach the lessons, say, in the connected culture unit within digital citizenship. And then the technology teacher might do the lessons within safety and security. So again, you can really cherry pick the lessons and align them to the teachers where it's the best fit for the standards and the courses that they may be teaching. What we've seen in terms of how often you implement the lessons, our recommendation based on what we've seen with these model schools is that lessons that are implemented at least twice a week seem to work best. And that way you build some momentum and excitement around the lessons, and you're not doing one every week or one every other week where kids may have lost a bit of focus on the particular topic. Lastly, we think it's important to really engage and educate parents. This is part and parcel of taking a whole community approach. And we've developed materials that are not only part of the parent media program that I had mentioned earlier, but also we've created materials that are part of the curriculum itself to allow you to do that. So first off, if you're teaching the curriculum, we recommend introducing it to the parents. And we've developed a curriculum overview letter as well as strand overview letters. Those are the topical strands, the 3 topical strands as part of the curriculum that you can use to let parents know what you're doing in the classroom. That starts to build the sense of the homeschool connection and really keeping parents informed about what you're doing with their students. You can hold grade level coffees for deeper education and distribute the tip sheets and show some parent-teacher videos. Because like the videos we created for the students, we also created videos that can be used with parents or teachers that well. We know, in fact, in many cases that these parent-teacher videos have been used in faculty meetings. Lastly, we recommend partnering with your parent association to distribute information and to think about facilitating school-wide presentations and conversations. And with the materials that we've created as part of the curriculum as well as the parent program, we have everything that you would need to do that, including presentation scripts and slides. You can find all of this information on our website at commonsensemedia.org/educators. As you can see, we have on the educator page the opportunity to look at a variety of different areas, like you can look and search for the K through 12 curriculum, or educating parents, or online trainings, because we offer trainings online too. And if you are interested in the curriculum or the parent program, you can browse in this area by grade as well as then by the topic that you were most interested in. So we've developed the functionality on our website so you can have a better sense of getting to the information that you want quickly. I hope that you found this information helpful to you and that you are energized and enthusiastic about going back to your school community or whatever community you might be in and educating both kids, parents, and your faculty about these issues, because we really believe that it does take a whole community approach. We all have responsibility, and that by joining together, we can raise a generation of kids that behave safely, participate responsibly, and think critically in our ever-changing digital media world. Thank you very much. Please feel free to visit commonsense.org for more information.